going live? And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, what Embargo, episode Veinte. That's 20. We made it to 20, Catfish.
I can't believe we made it to 20. That's kind of amazing.
I'm impressed. So, and to honor our 20th, we're doing something completely special, and not even talking about Cuban cigars. So, to all of our Cuban followers out there, this one goes out to you. So, but today, no, we're talking about a boutique company that is on the rise, and their new cigar, which has got everyone screaming. Cigar is simply called HR, and the company is Cubanacan. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, you got it right.
Perfect.
Good.
Nathan, why don't you break down Cubanacan for us and just kind of talk about the entire company, because it's
yeah, no problem, no problem. I'd be glad to. Thanks for having me.
Tell us who you are, Nate. Fucking start the show and you don't even do shit. You're just like, hey, why don't you tell everybody? Nobody knows who Nathan is. I mean, all of us do. We're talking about, yeah, well, you're an asshole. Okay. And all these other people out there don't know who Nate is, who are watching, and they need to know who Nate is. Nate, tell us, well, first off, Nate, how's your wife doing? Because I've been following that on Facebook. She's doing all right?
Thank you for starting it that way, because first of all, I want to say thanks to the whole cigar industry for all the well-wishing and support and kind words and kind thoughts. She is doing very well.
Good.
We actually, she just got back from the doctor today, and her recovery path is very, very good. Her prognosis is excellent.
Awesome.
The doctors, I know a lot of people have asked, so this might help get the word out. The doctors did such a great job with it, and we were frankly, we were just lucky that we caught it early.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, my wife had grade 3 carcinoma, DCIS, which is a very aggressive form of breast cancer. She was diagnosed in September, and as of last week, the oncologist told her there's really no reason to come back and see her.
Wow.
So
awesome.
they dug in, they found it, they removed 10 masses from her breast, but for whatever reason, and largely because I think there's a lot of good people out there saying a lot of good stuff, she, for all, while they can't use this term, I don't believe yet, she's considered cancer-free. There's no chemo or radiation that's going to be necessary or anything like that.
That's awesome.
So
that's
very
awesome.
Good stuff. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I've been following it, and I mean, obviously, it's hard for some of us to keep in touch on anything other than the Facebooks and Twitters of the world because we're all so busy. You know what I mean? And so for that, I'm glad to hear she's doing well because I've seen it, and I have family members who have gone through it and not survived, and I have family members going through it right now. It's not easy, so.
Yeah, well, she named the tumor Claude, and nothing French has ever advanced, so it never had a chance in the
Oh, that's awesome. So tell everybody out there who you are and what your position with Cubanacan is, and then give us the history of Cubanacan, so that people know who you are. Because Seth and I know you from House Emilio before the move to Cubanacan. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then give us the word on Cubanacan.
My role with Cubanacan is it's what the title is Eastern U.S. Director. The cool thing about what we do, what that specifically entails is selling to the Southeast and serving those retailers. Also, it's going to include some management stuff with everybody that we work with east of the river. But really, the cool thing about the way our company is set up is we're kind of just an island, and we all kind of just get it done. So at any given point, Spence could be throwing some things around. I might come up with an idea. It's very, very fluid. There's no rigid structure to it. We just kind of do what works and work to each other's talents. And I think it's really cool because we kind of figuratively, Robert included, we all figuratively meet in a circle and throw things out there. So it's very, very collaborative, and that's what really attracted me. I mentioned it when I posted my acceptance on Facebook back in the summer. The cool thing about this company is it's very collaborative, and they just want to make good cigars, and there's no real delusions of grandeur or anything like that. Just want to make good cigars and get them in the hands of good people at a good price. and and just have fun with it. And so that was what was really attractive about making that move for me. I'm really proud of what we accomplished at House of Emilio, and for me, this was another step. Being a boutique nut that I am, I just met more good people that I thought really deserved a shot at getting the word out there. Cubanacan itself has been around, I believe, since about 2006. For the first several years of its existence, they focused on small runs and things of that nature, priming the fields. We are vertically integrated, so I was really attracted by that as well. Our factory is in Esteli, just a little tiny factory with a few people that work there, and they'll ship some cigars out and then go play soccer. It's really a true mom and pop small operation. The premium stuff started around 2012 when the core line Cubanacan blends came out, the Connecticut, the Maduro, then the Habano came along. Of course, Cineros is the line completely under Omar Aleman's control. He's our master blender. He's a large part of what you're smoking with the HR. We also had the Maderos line, which is under a bit of a revamping right now, which is Robert's family line, and then here comes HR, and so it's been pretty fun. There has been really rapid growth over the last 5-6 months. So it's been kind of a whiplash phenomenon for some of us, because I think that when lightning all struck at the right place at the right time, and I knew Spencer for a long time. I knew Lawrence from before he was in the industry. These are my dudes. These are my buddies, and working with them was just natural. So that was really fun.
Yeah, Lawrence is a character, isn't he?
Yeah, man. He's a big teddy bear, man. Big teddy bear.
He's a character. I got introduced to him this year at the show, and he cracked me up, man. He's good people. He's good people.
You can tell I'm high class tonight. I'm really high class tonight. If you want to do a pairing, I've got a Cubanacan Maduro and a Diet Dr. Pepper. Oh, yeah. Shout out to the Southern Fried Pipe Club, by the way.
Hey, man.
Go ahead.
I was just saying Dr. Pepper's the bomb.
It is a good pairing. A lot of people actually swear by that with cigars, and I've had it with cigars before, and it actually works really well, I must say.
I just personality-wise, I've never been really that. I mean, as my grandfather would say, I've never been really that highfalutin. It's one of those deals where if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And we can, with cigars, we can talk about hints of nutmeg and bergamot. But frankly, I was just in the mood to have a Diet Dr. Pepper and a cigar. So you know what? There we go. Yeah.
I'm actually I've never had a Cubanacan cigar before. Nothing from the line.
Oh, damn.
It's probably, I'm on West Coast, so it's probably why. But somebody sent me, oddly enough, I got a Christmas package a couple days ago, and somebody sent me the Cubanacan. It's like a limited edition Maderos.
That's old. That's old. That's not even made anymore. Yeah, that's not even made anymore. Wow, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's from like
special now.
If my memory serves me correctly, that was from like 2008. That was a trial run type thing. So,
really?
So if you like it, congratulations. If you don't, good news. We don't make it anymore.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger ring gauge than I normally like, but it's like a Connecticut, I want to say.
Yeah.
Very smooth, mild. It would be a good first of the day cigar. And I'm actually glad I grabbed it right now, because I was boxing about 30 minutes ago, so I ran home to jump on, and if I would have smoked a nicotine bomb right now, I'd probably just fall over on my chair.
Yeah, well, that's
a mild cigar helps.
Well, the good news with what we do, and I think largely you're not knowing much about us is because of your geography. We're working right now to get some of the right people on the ground out in Cali and the West Coast and all that. But as far as our blending, as far as the Cubanacan philosophy and blending, it's Omar's old school, man. Omar's this cool cat from Cuba, and when Omar blends cigars, it is all about flavor. That's the first and last thing. So when we never really Omar, in my experience, has never blended a cigar that had anything to do, any purposeful move about strength. The strength on the cigar for whatever they ended up being, but it was all about nuance. And so what that's fleshed out to be right now is most of our cigars are a good, in terms of strength, a good solid medium. We've got some milder. The Cenero Habano Maduro is a nice fuller strength cigar. But really, the good news, the thing that I think this is attributing to its success in a large part of the country, is that it is very palatable and a lot of people can smoke it. So that's what's been really fun for me.
What about you, Seth? Do you see him over there at all?
What's up?
Do you see him over in North Carolina?
I never hook up with this dude when we're over in Carolina. I never see him. I don't think he exists.
I don't exist. I'm this little figure of magic. I know that I know that you guys are really growing in Charlotte right now. I know, Union. I know I got my HRs. Coop picked me up some HRs from Union in Charlotte. And I know that it's growing there. And I know that you guys were in. Well, I don't know. Are you in Greensboro? And are you in Winston-Salem or any of those areas?
We're working on that. We're working on that. Some stuff there around that area for the turn of the year.
Yeah. So, but it's one of those. I've heard about it, and once again, I'm like Catfish. I never had any Cubanacan. I've heard about it. Back from when you had a previous rep and previous individual with the company, and then obviously, I think we can all say when you have the HR got announced, that got everybody's attention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Let's see what's going on here. So everyone's like, hey, I want to smoke this HR. I want to smoke this HR. Mm-hmm. And then this is the first thing you get to smoke, and holy crap, this is some tasty stuff, and it's getting better and better. It's just been sitting in my humidor, and
wait till it gets good.
Gosh, that's already great, man. So, and you said Omar's the one who blended this, and I know we'll go into that, but I've read in Cigar Aficionado had a very good introduction about this in the summer, is that he used to manage La Corona in Havana, Cuba, which is a very big factory.
Mm-hmm.
Now this has a triple cap. Is everything you rolled in the Cuban fashion, or?
Yeah. It's all very, very traditional.
Yeah.
For instance, we do not make. Here's something that'll drive. Okay, so we're all in this conversation. We're all boutique cigar nerds. I consider ourselves, the three of you, the two of you guys, I consider y'all artisan cigar people. So you'll know the big fights over what's a Lancero, what's a Corona Gorda, all this stuff. Well, we make a long, thin cigar in the Maduro. It's called a Lonsdale. Why? Because it's a Lonsdale.
Yeah.
It's a 6.5 by 42 European mil-spec Lonsdale. It's 1911 American issued, killed the Germans. And Omar in the factory practically, in his mind, he's ready to stab somebody if it's a millimeter off. That's the cool thing about the tradition. Our Robustos, what you would consider a Robusto, is a 5 by 50 Rothschild, and it is called a Rothschild. All traditional sizes. Yeah, Omar is very traditional, and it's really to me, it's really kind of a breath of fresh air when everybody is doing something edgy and new and different and revolutionary, and you're never going to be the same after you smoke the next thing. I think I'm an old-fashioned guy. I really kind of appreciate some of the old. There's a little bit of truth in doing things the old-fashioned way. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. If you're going to make a Lonsdale, make it a Lonsdale, and I'm with you on that.
And a Lonsdale has been my favorite size for my entire life, and finally somebody comes out.
Yeah, and someone actually finally makes a true Lonsdale. No, you're absolutely correct, because nowadays, years ago, back in 2007, 2008, you said you're going to get a Robusto, it's probably going to be a 5 by 50.
Right.
Now you get a Robusto, and it's like 6 by 54. That's what they call a Robusto. I'm like, that's not a Robusto.
It could be a 5 by 50. It could be a 5 by 54. It could be anything.
Yeah. The best fun I've seen about it is, when Robert Caldwell did his Long Live the King, is Toro, which he calls a petite double wide short Churchill, in which he called it that best speaker.
See, I love that, though. I do. I love that.
It's one of those, it's the greatest titles ever. Like, he should have just called it Toro, but he did it on purpose.
Yeah, that's fun to that's fun to me. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's totally up to the philosophy of the people that are making the cigars. I just really happen to like this.
Yeah. Catfish, there's an ATF on you.
What?
Is that your airplane?
Yeah, no, they've been spotting me all day. I was cutting down some fig trees earlier, and they were spying on my ass. So they're coming for me. They knew we had a show tonight. So
Catfish has always got the planes coming after him. So
yeah, the ATF.
What's the production numbers? I mean, because you said Omar is very traditional. It's a very small factory. You have an idea. You probably have an idea of how much you're producing of everything, annually from that factory, right?
Yeah. So take the smallest number that you would ever imagine a legitimate cigar company making and cut it in half, and that's close. Honestly, I don't have exact numbers of production in terms of overall across the company, but I do know that it is extremely craft. The cool thing about it is, from a retailer perspective, in the case when there's a back order on a certain size, like for instance, our Rothschilds and our Gordos do very, very well. In the event that there is a back order with us, it typically only lasts about a week, because having your own factory, we ship out almost every week and we get something replenished.
Yeah.
The rollers are busy these days down at Cubanacan.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But I'm not even going to try and guesstimate at a number because I don't know anything that would be fairly close. But I can tell you that it's very, very small compared to a lot of the manufacturers out there.
Yeah. No, I know some of them just produce out tons. So, Catfish, do you have another one, or we want to roll from there? You want to focus
questions?
Yeah, you had some questions.
I have a million questions. I'm sorry. I had to cut my Facebook off because somebody was messaging me, and I'm in the middle of talking. And I'm in the middle of talking smack to Rob and Logan. Well, Logan mainly because they have cigar chat going on right now. So I'm telling everybody in the chat room to turn them off and listen to us instead.
I told them that there was cigar chat. I sent out an email to the entire Cigar community saying, "Listen, you can watch Rob and Logan, who are a bunch of losers, or you can tune into Catfish and I." So
I'm gonna. Did you send him the questions that I had? Nate,
did.
Did you get any questions from us? Okay. So
Yeah.
I'll start going down the line then. And I know you weren't with Cubanacan at the IPCPR show, but what was speaking of the HR now, I guess kind of shifting directions into the HR, which I think is kind of an odd timing that it came out, and then all of a sudden we have this, Obama making a step forward with relations in Cuba. It's just very interesting kind of how these things are taking place, because there could be, who knows what will happen in the future, but how was the overall response at the IPCPR show for that you've heard for the HR? Because it seemed to us that he was, everybody wanted to be there, I guess, but you never know, how many people are actually going to pick up the cigar and pick up the line. It's an expensive line, and if they hadn't ever done business with Cubanacan before, what was the response like at the show?
Well, let me put it to you this way. At the trade show, we sold over 50% of our initial production run at the trade show. It was overwhelming. Those guys over there did a great job. They were within basically within eyeshot of where I was on the show floor, and if you ever go over that way, they were busy the entire time. And,
yeah. Oh no, I know they were.
Yeah, and the response was very, very good. I would say, I'm just going to narrow a percentage. I would say about 65% of the initial production run was pre-sold at the trade show, and then that doesn't include what's been selling since.
So
it's been good.
Did you guys have more? Did you guys have more ready to hit the market now that you guys released in December, or was that initial run that you prepared for at the show what you were marketing in December now?
We are. I think I'm about to answer your question. If I miss it, then just slap me around. What we are shipping now is what we pre-sold at the trade show. and now we are taking orders for it as well with new accounts that want to bring it in certain quantities. As my TV gives me a nice blue glow, I look like a disco ball. But no, we are shipping out new orders as well. But they were, our office, they were a little stressed out the first week of December.
Yeah.
I bet they were.
Yeah, that's why I waited to do anything with the. Lawrence gave me some samples at the show, and I know some people who got them at the show. They immediately went out and reviewed them, and I waited until the last week of November to review it.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I wanted to smoke them, he gave me two to review, the Sublime and the Bellicoso or Pyramid. I don't know what it was, but it was a torpedo shape. And
yeah, the Bellicoso.
anyways, I waited. I wanted to wait until I knew when you guys were actually facilitating the release.
Right.
And they were fantastic. I thought the Sublime was unbelievable, but that's another story. But that being said, are you guys opening up? Are you guys limiting the number of shops that you're opening these up to?
We foresee a time coming when we're going to have to limit the number of accounts that carry HR just due to the demand.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that if it's small production, you can't just open up everybody and pull, Kiribati where you have 1 billion orders and you can't,
well,
land them for years.
Our number one concern is being able to service the customers that we have. And to their credit, this fall, a lot of retailers have signed on board with Cubanacan and HR. To the point right now where we're okay. But talking with our team, we foresee a time coming when we will have to cut that off. When is that? I don't know. What's the number? I have no idea. But when we get that gut intuition that, all right, we've hit mass on how many accounts that can handle HR, then we'll keep it with those guys and we'll be happy with that. It's not a limited edition, but we have to. With our infrastructure, we have to be very careful because our number one concern is being able to super serve the customers that we have without sacrificing that relationship to go out and get new.
Yeah. So what is the? Sorry, go ahead, Seth.
No, I was just going to say it's a good business model. I mean, it's one of those, you want to open accounts, but you're not making them limited, but at the same time, you're not sacrificing any level of quality, whether it's from the service, from management, from the guys in the field, to the tobacco, to the rollers, anything. There's nothing being sacrificed in terms of quality.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. There are a lot of really good boutique cigar companies out there. There really are. The number one way to kill your brand is to start pushing out product as a boutique. Is to start pushing out product that's not ready in scattered amounts all over the place without any real control. And that's the number one way to kill your brand because customers, look, if like for instance, Pete Johnson at Tatuaje has done a wonderful job of quality control. And they've grown an entity. And you've got diehard Tatuaje guys out there that are doing they are live and breathe SNS Club, Tat guys, and that has been earned over time. Okay, yeah. So Pete and the guys at My Father and all that, for instance, have done a wonderful job. But with a brand new company that you may not have necessarily heard of, no matter how long it's been around, I mean, people don't realize this company, Cubanacan, has been in existence for almost 9 years.
Yeah.
But because we aren't as well known, until you have that reputation for quality, you have to micromanage everything and make sure that it works. And then, you know what, when you feel like you've arrived, that's when you start and work doubly as hard. Yeah, you have to, because you put a production run out there that's not up to snuff, and it's really, really hard to climb over that.
Well, speaking of which, how was Hiroshi involved in this? Because I mean, it seems like obviously Omar was the guy blending. I'm just curious if he was involved in the curing process of the leaf. I know the the wrapper leaf is 2000 Ecuadorian Habano, right? Correct in that. And I'm assuming that it was cured with whatever secret family traditions they have between both of them. Same with whatever tobacco is in this thing. I mean, I'm assuming that there was something involved. So how involved was he in the process? Was he more of just tasting them in Cuba and saying what he liked and didn't like, or was he flying over to Nicaragua to be active in the process?
No, that's a good question. It starts with Alejandro Rabana, of Vegas Rabana, who taught Hiroshi pretty much everything he knows. And what Hiroshi's part in the project was very, very important, because Hiroshi, first of all, had the vision. He wanted to release a Rabana family cigar in Nicaragua.
Let me stop you real quick. Did he approach you, or did you guys approach him?
It was a mutual conversation, as far as I know. Now, once again, this was before I was on board.
Yeah. No, I didn't think about that question. It just popped in my head as you were talking about it.
It's a fair question. It's a fair question. But I do know that Hiroshi had interest in creating a cigar that could be sold in the United States, out of Nicaragua, playing a part in, honestly, not even that, but honestly just wanted to pay tribute to his grandfather. And for those of you that know the Vegas Rabana brand, I mean, the Vegas Rabana cigar, most Cuban cigars, very smooth, mild-ish, very flavorful. Vegas Rabana was the caged lion that the minute you let it out wanted to eat your face off. And that, I mean, I remember, back when I was in later years in college, I remember smoking a Vegas Rabana, and it sat me on my butt for about 6 hours. I mean, I turned green. It was terrible. Just because I was learning how to smoke. But the level of strength, it was very different from a lot of Cuban cigars. And so Hiroshi had that vision. Hiroshi had that goal, working with Omar, who he knew and he trusted and he liked. And Hiroshi said that he wanted to be able to produce in Nicaragua something that his grandfather would have put his stamp on. And so everything about the smoking experience of this cigar is attributed to Omar's mastery of blending and running the factory down in Nicaragua, and Hiroshi's meticulous attention to detail when it comes to capturing the essence that was Vegas Rabana. And so between the two of them, it was kind of a Voltron of cigars, I mean, then you just get together and kick ass. But yeah, Hiroshi played a very close part. He smoked a lot of leaf. He had to get to know Nicaraguan tobacco. Because to be quite honest with you, he's not in Nicaragua. So he had to get to know a lot of Nicaraguan leaf. He smoked a lot of it. He smoked a lot of blends, and he did a lot of tweaking work with Omar. And between the two of them, that was really, really special what got put together, I think.
Yeah, that was definitely that was on my list of questions. Was how involved was he with the evolution of the process? And I guess that comes down to, was he more of, in this day and age, some of these boutique guys, it's, they sit down with a blender and they go into, say, Casa Fernandez, and their master blender hands them cigars and they decide which one they want eventually, and go from there. So that, and given him being in Cuba, and Omar being in Nicaragua, that's why I was curious about that relationship. If it was, Omar sending him stuff and him giving approval, or them actually being involved, both being tobacco gurus, in how that kind of played out, because I think that would be what would make me more curious. That's what I would be curious about.
It really shows in the blend too, because as you said, Catfish, there's a lot of guys out there, and it's not even just boutique, that have a blender who's in charge of the factory, who blends the cigars, and then they just kind of they pick their samples, they pick their blends, and they say, this is the one I want to use, and then they go out there and they're a brand owner and they promote it, blah blah blah. But with this cigar, you have an individual that yes, he's growing tobacco in Cuba, but he understands tobacco. He grows it. He understands it from that perspective, and even onwards. But that's where his skill set is. And then you have Omar, who's in charge of a major factory in Cuba, now in charge of a factory in Nicaragua, who understands Nicaraguan factory in tobacco, but also understands how to blend properly and how to make a great cigar. And you put those two together, and as you said, Nate, you've created a masterpiece. And that's what really makes the cigar special and separate it from a lot of other.
You know, ultimately, the question that it's asked was, how do you create a tribute to a Cuban legend with Nicaraguan know-how and product?
Yeah.
It takes both. You know, you're putting together, look, I'm a blues guy, all right? You're putting together a blues band. And everybody's playing their part, and one day these guys playing out in the Delta wake up, and next thing you know, it's really great music.
Yeah, and you know, I guess that really, and that to me would be the big. What was interesting to me, and this is random, but when I happened to get some Robena farm rolls from the island,
yeah,
and on Thanksgiving Day was when I smoked the second of the samples, and I didn't take many notes on it because I had already taken detailed notes, and I just wanted to see. Kind of reinforced my thoughts on the blend, and the guy that I was smoking was a good friend of mine. He actually works in Nashville, and he's working there right now. And he flew into town, and he's got a house here. And we were sitting out smoking, and we had the day before we had smoked these Robena farm rolls. So then that day I brought along the Sublime, and I just handed it to him, and I said, "Hey, tell me what this smells like, or what it feels like to you." And he grabs the cigar and he looks at it, and he starts feeling it, and he's like, "It smells like those Robenas. Is this another one?" And I was like, "No." And I told him what it was. He's like, "Wow, that's weird." And what was really trippy was the feel of the wrapper specifically, and that's why I was tripping on it. I was like, okay, obviously this isn't the same leaf by any means, and the leaves weren't obviously cured the same, but it's like. It just kind of, I don't know. It's like, okay, what kind of secret bullshit are they doing down there? What are they pulling? They're pulling on my ass.
Well, I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. The bullshit is this. It's very traditional and very, very, it's a slow brew approach, man.
How long have you guys been curing this tobacco? Do you know?
It's been, let me put it to you this way. The project, well, I don't know the exact answer to that, but the project has been in the works for several years. And it's taken a long time to make all this line up and get it to work in terms of blends and blend consolidation, getting everything worked out specifically with the blends and the tobacco. The fermentation process that we use is all about time and temperature and water. There's absolute no human manipulation of the natural process of fermentation. Not in Omar's house. That just doesn't work that way. So it's very, very, very traditional, and you see that in the tooth of the wrapper, which this is what I really like. When you let tobacco do its thing, and when you're willing to wait and take your time, the oils in these cigars, the oils in a good leaf will really, really make a good tooth, and you can see it on that Habano 2000 on the HR.
Oh, yeah.
Really beautiful wrapper.
The wrappers are absolutely gorgeous. They're just stunning. It's simple and classic, but at the same time, it's just so elegant and new because it's just traditional, and it makes it great.
What's old is new again,
Yeah, exactly.
So was there a lot of issues? I would imagine there would be issues at getting permission for him to travel to the U.S., getting permission to come to the U.S., but initially, when this all started, was there issues getting him back and forth to Nicaragua?
I know there was a lot of work involved, and it took a lot of time. I don't know much more than that, and I don't ask. But it was a long process, and there was a lot of stuff to do and a lot of hurdles to jump.
Yeah, I was curious about that side of it. If Omar had to travel to Cuba a lot with them, and if Cuba knew he was going there, for that reason to create this cigar to go out of Nicaragua with the Robena name on it, given the how much fame the Robena name has for Cuba and the history behind it. And then eventually, obviously, he had to get permission. He got his visa for I think 4 or 5 years is what him and Lawrence told me at the show during our interview. to travel to the U.S. and do his thing. Have you been to any of the shows so far?
I haven't yet. The one I'm really looking forward to. Of course, I'm going to be in Miami in February. But the one I'm really looking forward to is with my boy Jeff Mute up at Riverside Cigars in Indiana, right across from Louisville. We're going to be doing a great event up there with him later on in the spring, and I cannot wait. The response, the thing about Hiroshi is such a personable guy. He's one of those guys, when you meet him, you don't understand, or the average Joe would not understand that this guy is Jedi. And when you're hanging out with him, he's like a Jedi you can have a cheeseburger with, because he's just so cool and happy to talk, and so thankful, and he wants to get to know the people that want to get to know what he's trying to do. You see, a great cigar in my mind is not just a cigar that's blended well. There are a lot of really good cigars out there that are blended well, constructed well, they smoke great, they taste great. But a great cigar, a really great cigar, in my mind, is one that accomplishes something bigger than the smoking of the cigar. And in that respect, it's the story behind the cigar. It's, in this case, in HR's case, it's a legacy of Cuban tradition, joining forces with the little cigar company that could, and doing something really spectacular. And that's just really, and then paying homage to somebody that changed the industry, changed the cigar industry, period.
Yeah.
And so that's, but a really great cigar has that story. It has that ambiance behind it. And when you talk to the person that actually put their heart and their soul into that cigar, and they want to share that with you, and they're excited about it, that's why Hiroshi's excited about it. This is one of his, this is one of his life goals, is to pay homage to the guy that gave him that passion and that knowledge and that know-how and made him what he is.
Well, knowing that he took over for his grandfather, which if some people don't know, I believe it was either Hiroshi's dad or one of Don Alejandro's sons has a skin issue, so he couldn't be out in the farms, and that's why Hiroshi kind of took over.
Yes.
And his dad, I believe, runs one of the hotels.
Yeah, Hiroshi's dad couldn't do it. He runs La Casa de Habana.
Yeah. So that being said, who's running what is he doing about his day-to-day duties? I mean, he's obviously a farmer.
Yeah.
And coming from a long line of farmers, you can't just leave the farm.
Yeah.
So what's going on down there? Does he have a next in line that he's training, or does he have family members that are holding down the fort while he's running around?
That I don't know, but I do know that he's in regular communication down there, and he's got his people that he trusts.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I come from if I remember right, I come from 8 or 9 generations of farmers, and so yeah, I get what you're talking about.
That's why.
Yeah, my grandfather's a cotton farmer, and they still run it. He's 86 years old with a broken neck and 2 replaced hips, and he's still, anytime he goes, he's calling back to the house.
Farmers are crazy like that, and they don't sleep.
I know they
don't take days off.
They don't ever die. They just get new equipment. But no, it's he's in constant communication with everything going on back there and making sure.
Interesting. What's the do you guys foresee? Okay, well here I'm going to ask you the tough question, real quick. Everybody's pissed off about the price. Why is it so expensive?
Well, first of all right, I want to see people that are pissed off. Well, it's all about.
I'm going to ask it because people want to know, because that's the one complaint I get from anybody. Say, that's too damn expensive. Blah 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 blah. And I mean, I have my answers to them, but I want to hear yours.
Well, let me put it to you this way: why does NASA not buy computers from Walmart?
They probably do these days. Sure.
Well, that may have contributed to the problem, though.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, every cigar out there is a sum of its parts. And if you want to accomplish certain things with a cigar, then you have to ask, what tobaccos does it take to do what I want to do with this cigar? And in this case, when these tobaccos were laid out and Hiroshi had the tobaccos that he wanted to use, and Omar said, this is how we do this and this is how it works, then this is what it laid out and this is what it cost. And it's quite simple. I mean, it's not like, first of all, a $18, $20 cigar is a unicorn these days. There are cigars out there that are much more expensive. Now, and frankly, you know, they've earned it. You know, there are a number of companies that make really, really good, pricey cigars, and a lot of times people don't even ask them, you know, twice about it because.
No, I mean, Davidoff could put a $17 Petite Corona and people buy that shit all day, and they've been doing it for decades, and nobody cares. Yeah. And they're amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
so earned it. You know, and that's because people have that relationship. They know about that brand. I think honestly, you know, people ask about why the price. It's not because this cigar isn't good enough. It's more because they look at the brand and they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so there's the reason, I think. But then here's the deal. Once again, we sold over 60% of what we in our first production run, what we made in our first production run 6 months ago at the trade show.
What about now?
Yeah, we give.
How the show's going now?
It's still moving. Yeah,
that's what I figured. I mean, I was curious what the response has been since you guys have been doing shows. I've worked a lot of shop shows myself.
I know of one store in my territory that received their shipment of HR, and before the boxes got out of the box and was tagged and labeled, they had to reorder the next day. So it does, and once again, that's not happening in every store. Let's be realistic. But at the same time, when the customer that wants that cigar, not necessarily HR, but that profile, when they smoke that cigar, 99 times out of 100, they smoke the cigar and do exactly what you guys are doing right now and said, wow.
Yeah.
And then there's never another question about price. You know, ultimately, Cubanacan, we've been making for several years really great cigars that use certain portions of the tobacco that you smoke in the HR. You know, it's certainly, you know, tobacco. It's like mixing chili. You know, sometimes you put your good bourbon in, sometimes, you know, you get it. But at the same time, Cubanacan is making great cigars that start retail price point under $5. So, you know, we're not a pricey cigar company, but this one was certainly worth it.
No, and a lot of people don't understand how much money it costs to store tobacco for years and not do anything with it as well.
That's it.
And I think that really comes into play that, you know, that's why Padrones cost so much, because they take care of this tobacco for years and they sit on it for years before they put it into a cigar.
Tobacco that is not smoked increases in price.
Yeah, no, and I read a good article on Rocky earlier this year about his Nicaraguan facility, and he brought that up specifically. He said people don't, you know, he's like, I don't foresee myself making great cigars out of this factory for another 3 or 4 years because we have to sit on this tobacco for so long, and he's like, and it costs so much money to store it. I mean, you look at what Drew Estate just did. You know, before they sold, they doubled their size or whatever they did. They made this another huge place because they have to store all of this crap before they, you know, and turn it into gold before they go and roll it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people grasp that as much. And when you look at Davidoff has the capital to store their tobaccos forever and used 10-year aged tobaccos and roll a Nicaraguan cigar and charge $17 for a little teeny tiny one, and people are balls out crazy over it, and it's in all of the cigar, the list years and whatnot, and then HR comes out and people are, fuck that, man, $17, blah, 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 you know, fucking da-da-da-da. And I understand, I get it. I mean, I'm a poor boy. I smoke cheap shit. I won't lie. But, you know, I understand.
There's a story that comes with the HR, and that's what's really important. And, you know, it in some extent, it even falls on the retailer. You know, if you have a customer who comes up and says, man, what are these HRs, and they see the price tag, you know, if I'm a retailer, I could talk to them about 15 minutes, giving them the story of the cigar and talking about it. I mean, the name itself is huge in the tobacco world, in the cigar industry. I mean, I don't care if you smoke Cubans or non-Cubans, you know the name Ravena. And when you start talking about the cigar, the name, who's involved, the process, everything that goes into it, it begins to build up to it, and you can say, okay, I can see that. And then once you smoke it, you can say, wow, okay, I get it. It makes perfect sense. Cigar Coop, they were smoking these in Union. And there was one guy who, Coop was telling me, he said, I don't spend that much on a cigar, blah, blah, blah. And they said, Coop told me that they're all like, buy it, smoke it. If you don't think it's worth it, we'll pay you, we'll give you your money back. I'll give you the money. They're all like, we'll give you our money back ourselves. He smoked it, and he was like, wow, this is the real deal. And that's the case. And, it's one of those things. Is it a little bit pricier? Yeah, but as you said, Nate, for this market right now, it's, really not that pricey compared with some other stuff out there, which, as you said, is at the price point or higher, which is ridiculous. Davidoff's releasing a $500 cigar for Pete's sakes. Yeah. But
we do live in a world where, people are paying $500 for a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle bourbon.
Yeah.
But Catfish's point is absolutely correct. I can get you a great deal on a bottle of 1-year-old Pappy. Let's just give me a minute, and I'll take the Pine Sol label off and put a Pappy label on it and send it to you. It takes time to make something like that. And do I have any? Did we have any expectations that anybody would dance out there and all of a sudden turn their everyday cigar into a $22 Hiroshi Robina Sublime? No. But this cigar, at this price point, Hiroshi and Omar, which is most importantly, they believe that it accomplished what the goal was on this cigar, which is, remember, that's my point, was what is this cigar meant to do? And it did it. And yeah, look, I'm on a budget too. It's one of those deals where I buy cigars. My retailers know when I go into a store, I buy cigars, and price is an issue. Price is an issue for me too. But when it gets down to it, the Padron name, they make wonderful cigars. They make wonderful cigars. Yeah. I'm one of the world's. I had a dog named Zeno. Okay, I'm a huge Davidoff fan. I love Zeno's entire story, everything about it. Guys like Avo, they're legends, and so is the Robina family, although it's lesser known to the U.S. because of political issues. And so that's where we are. These guys, I think they nailed it. And when I smoked the first one, it was before I ever worked with this company, and I would have paid twice as much when I found out how much it was, because I think it's that good. And the big thing is the proof is always in the pudding. Frankly, the proof is in how many retailers are bringing this on and how many customers are really enjoying it. You can't argue with that.
Well, let me ask you one last question, because I totally get the price. When I look at a Padron 85th, it's $20 and it's this big. So that's when people got pissed off at the price. And honestly, I can get. The Sublime, I want to say, lasted like 2.5, close to 3 hours.
Yeah, it's a 6.5 by 50.
It was ridiculous for the money. And so I could smoke two $12 cigars for that amount of time, or one really amazing one. Mm-hmm. So I get it. That being said, do you foresee Hiroshi doing anything, putting his name on anything else within your brand below that? You know what I mean? In a lower level line, in some of the, is it one and done? Are we just busting a nut and then leaving, or are we going deep?
Well, every cigar is a limited edition if it doesn't sell, right?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. This is so early on in this process that we're going to see what happens.
But I'm going to ask.
No, it's a fair question, very fair question. I'm not trying to dodge it. I'm telling you all that I know, and from my experience, I've been in this industry, and I started in retail, and then I was a broker. I've been on many sides of this industry, and I can tell you always that at this phase in this cigar's life, we want to see customer feedback, customer response, and then whatever Hiroshi decides to do is whatever he decides to do. So I don't really know the full answer to that, but I do know that this is exciting. This has been fun.
Well, given how long you had to age the tobacco and the cost of the tobacco, are you guys prepared for the next 3 or 4 years? Where do you see the longevity of this blend? I mean, because a lot of times it happens where somebody makes a great blend and then a year or two later it's gone, couldn't make it anymore, and that's really a big deal because for shops and smokers, if they can't get it after year two, they get pissed and they move on to the next guy.
Well, that's why we want to. Once again, goes back to an earlier discussion. That's why we're very committed to managing our production in light of numbers of retailers who carry the cigar. And that will give it as long a shelf life as humanly possible. Every cigar, eventually, by the time I'm dead, all the brands that we know now will be gone. But it's one of those deals where we'll see. But the management of retailers, that's part of what we do. And the management of production and our capability to execute, that's very, very important for us. We talked about that earlier. So I think that's a big part that plays in it, and that's why we may look at that situation down the road where we say we're not going to add any more because we want to service those that are giving us demand and that got on board with us early on.
Yeah, I mean, if that Habano 2000 leaf was rare and took forever to cure, then are you guys curing for the future now, or are you just waiting to see? Do you know?
We're putting stuff away all the time, and you can, for you guys that have spent time, especially in Central America, you know that you can make a lot of cigars out of a small amount of land, because tobacco is a very high yield plant. So, but yeah, we're always putting stuff aside. You never know when you're going to be going through the factory and stumble across that next, like, holy hell, this is awesome Pilon.
So is Omar growing? I didn't ask that question, but do you guys grow your own tobacco as well?
Yes, we grow a large portion of the tobacco we use in our cigars. Okay.
So did you guys grow the tobacco that was used in this, or was it Habano Ecuador? I'm assuming you guys broke that out.
Yes, yeah, so I'm going to be. I'm always a hedge my bets guy because I don't want to say definitively because once again, new guy here. But I can tell you that I do know the vast majority of the tobaccos that were used in that cigar were our tobacco.
Good tobacco.
If not the totality of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's, and touching back on George Padron's, George Padron has always explained, why their cigars are so expensive. He says, listen, it's because when you get a box of Padrons, you can open them up and smoke them in. You don't need to worry about it. You can smoke. And that's the case with these. And it's just one of those, they're ready to be smoked. And, is it going to be an everyday, 2 cigars a day smoke? Probably not. But Christmas is coming up, and you got a lot of special. There's always.
It's funny. It's funny that you said because I was talking to a fellow collector about custom rolls, Cuban custom rolls, and pricing, and how they when the fresh rolled Cubans from these custom rollers all over the island, you get them and you can smoke them for about a month, and then you got to wait a good 8 months to a year before you smoke them, and then they really don't kind of wake up until about 2 or 3 years down the line. Yeah. And once they get there, that's when they go from being a $5 or $6 cigar in a hotel in Havana to a year old, they're a $12 cigar. Once they get to States, year old, maybe 13, 14 bucks. 2 years old, 15, 16 bucks, and then somebody has a bundle of Hamlets from 2008 and they're $600. And people are paying 20 plus a cigar because you have this prime tobacco that's been aged for 4 or 5 years. So
a great example. A great example of this on a lower price scale. I have a dear friend of mine that's a retailer in North Carolina, and he's got at his store. He's got some really random old stuff. Okay, now I didn't know this until I visited the store. But I walked into the store. Now rewind back to around 2001 or 2, and I would, back in my former life when I was a minister, I would go down to Panama City, and that's where I would go on vacation. And I know where middle-aged people go to have regrets they can't remember. And it's awesome, right? It's like Sons of Anarchy meets a hairstylist. But there was a cigar shop down there that had Oliva back before the cloth bans.
Yeah.
Before Oliva had a cigar called the Grand Maduro. And the Oliva Gran Maduro was a box press. I always bought the Churchill, but they made like a Robusto, a Bellicoso, a 7x50, all sharply box pressed, black as night, paper band, Oliva Gran Maduro. I fell in love with that cigar. Now that was, like I said, 12 to 14 years ago. I went into this retailer in North Carolina, and by the way, back then, if I remember right, $2.50 for a Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
I know. And then I go into this retailer's place, and he's got boxes of Oliva Gran Maduros that were just sitting up there because very few people have ever heard of them. Now, I bought a box of them at $8 a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's just natural cost of business market increases. I would have paid $20 a stick for these things because they're that good, and they aged out that well. So your point is I think, exhibited very well. I think it's highlighted very well in just the case of that one cigar, and we all know those great cigars.
If you go find, there's a couple shops in Southern California that have been around for a long time, and you can go in there and you'll find randomly you'll see like a box of Master Blend 1s or Master Blend 2s or Camacho Liberties from like 2003 or something. And what are the price tags on them? $20-25 a stick. And every time I see them, I go, oh, and I buy a couple. And you know, I can't buy more than a couple, but I buy a couple. Or he'll have like original Pepin blended cigars from like 2005. You know, that Pepin rolled. You know, and by all means, some of those Pepin cigars need 8 years before they're smokable. They're so damn strong. But the point is once they get there, it's worth the money because you can't compare. There's no comparison. And I think, you know, I've smoked some cigars recently, some Nicaraguan cigars recently that reminded me of the Hiroshi and the flavors that are offered. But I can look at it and go, yeah, but I need to sit this down for 2 or 3 years before it's going to come close, which is that's time. Time is money.
Cigar just decided
at the end of the day,
aging for you. You know, so go ahead and take care of that. You just buy the cigars. That's the one guarantee I'll make. You open the box, you smoke the cigar, it's ready to be smoked.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a fabulous cigar.
It's fantastic now, and it's going to remain fantastic. And this is
I don't foresee it taking any dives in the next few years.
Yeah, this is a terrific blend. It's balanced, and it's when they rolled this and they blended it, they knew what they had. It's just
and I'd imagine, you know, having a palate that is born and bred on Cuban cigars and the flavors of Cuban tobaccos. I mean, you know, Seth and I are obviously Cuban whores. The Nicaraguan tobacco is so different to achieve quality finish. I mean, it doesn't taste like a Cuban cigar at all, but the really good Nicaraguan cigars to me finish like Cuban cigars, in that there's no palate burn, there's no settling in the back of my mouth or anything like that. And so that's what people sometimes ask me, well, how can you like to smoke Nicaraguan cigars? Some of the Cuban guys that I hang out with, and I'm like, well, I don't. I think they suck. I hate their fucking tobacco. Like, but you have like a bunch of Nicaraguan cigars you like. I'm like, yeah, because they're blended right. They're blended with good tobacco and they finish well. You know, and so it's same with Dominican tobacco. I mean, how many people, you know, swear by Opus that's been aged 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and that shit costs like $20-$30 a stick if you can find it aged that long.
Right.
Same thing. Like, don't bullshit me. You've taken 5 years to put age on an Opus to make it smokable. ATF's coming. They're coming for me right now. I know. But that's what cracks me up about it, because there really are. There's great tobacco everywhere you go. And it's very unique. Dominican tobacco is very unique. The best Dominican tobacco is very unique. The best Nicaraguan tobacco is very unique. But one thing that all of them have in common when they're really good and they're expensive is how they finish. And that's, to me, was what I liked the most about it, was the way that it finished. And I sat there and smoked that Sublime for like close to 3 hours, and I'm just sitting there going, oh, this is great. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is good. Oh, fuck, this is goddamn, it's really good. I'm like, shit, it's been like 3 hours. You know, that to me was what sold me on it, because I've had those experiences with Padron, you know, Family Reserve stuff, and you know, the expensive Davidoffs and Zinos that I love dearly, you know.
Well, I will tell you,
So.
I am the one thing that I've always looked at cigars as, we always in college and whatnot, we had jokes about cigars. We would call them fellowship enhancers. We had a lot of different ways to look at it. And the thing that I've always, when I sell a cigar, when I introduce a customer to a cigar, the one thing that I've always thought about, I've always remembered, is that when that customer buys that cigar, that customer is investing an hour of his life or 2 hours of his life into that cigar. It's my job and it's my company's job to see that we're damn sure giving them a good 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because they're giving us 2 hours of their life. In return, we're giving them a good experience for that 2 hours. That's our job. And whatever price point and all that stuff comes out, that's all water under the bridge. But the goal is to see to it that if they're smoking, like this Maduro, I'm smoking a Cubanacan Maduro Rothschild right now. Hour smoke, for me, one of the best damn $6.50 Maduro Robustos out there. And certainly fulfilled. And the same deal with just about anything else. I'm very proud to say that, in my career, the cigars that I've brought to people, that I've shown to people, I've always put my integrity in there with the cigars, because I believe that if I introduce someone to the wrong cigar, that says something about me. So I've always tried very hard to see to it that I help that customer invest their time wisely, because they could be grieving, they could be grieving for a lost family member. They could be celebrating the birth of a child. And I want to see to it that at the end of that time, when they're done with that cigar, they don't look at their hand and say, well, God, that was a waste of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the number one thing.
I mean, there's back in 2003, I bought a box. Well, 2003, 2004, I bought some sticks. The cigar was called Symphony. And it's called Symphony. It's now the Gurkha Symphony, which is a whole CI thing. But at the time, this was a limited edition, 13-count box K-Hansotia Symphony. This was before CI turned into this huge Gurkha Symphony. And I bought a couple of these because I was graduating high school. And I was like, wow, these are really good sticks. I went back when I went in college, bought a box of them. I'm like, wow, these are great. Didn't really do anything about them for a little while. Found a box of them. And then I called retailers, said, hey, you have the Symphony? And they're like, yeah, you're talking about that, that Gurkha with just that one silver band? I said, yeah. I said, that one. Limited edition, 13 in a box. They're like, yeah. They're like, yeah, we still got a couple boxes. I was like, give them. And I probably have 2 boxes, maybe a box and a half left.
That's cool.
It's a phenomenal cigar, and it's one of those things. There's a lot of guys who bash Gurkha, and I'll throw Logan Lawler on the bus here. I sent it to him. I took the band off of it. I sent that Connecticut to him on, and he's like, that was friggin' incredible. What was that? I said, what do you think it was? And he was guessing. I made him guess for about 2 days until he started killing me. I said, you just smoked a K-Hansotia Symphony from 2004. I said, which is now a Gurkha. I said, what are you going to say? He's like, that's an incredible cigar. And it's just, it doesn't matter. And I mean, I still have them, and I'll send them to people just to prove them wrong. It's an incredible stick, and when you find something like that, you really need to treasure it.
Yeah, and I think a bigger message there, it's really cool to me, is, look, I know how we all can get, all right? There are enough forums out there. I've been in cigar social media for a long, long time. I remember when you had to dial up AOL to get in on that action. Right? So when I think the lesson is, even though we all have our beliefs and our preferences and companies that we love and companies that we may not necessarily love and all of that, don't get jaded. Don't be that guy. Just enjoy the damn cigar. And because we can have all those things in our head that we believe to be true, and then all of a sudden somebody drops an unbanded cigar from a company that we say we don't like, and all of a sudden it's the best thing in the world. You know what? Good for Logan. If he likes it, stick to it. Oh, that was that? Never mind. No, it's a great cigar. And I think we can get ourselves lost up sometimes in the politics and in all this other stuff that we may not like. But I think at the end of the day, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and they're meant to be enjoyed.
Yep, and sometimes men have periods, and they flaunt it on the internet. And they get all butthurt about cigars, and at the end of the day, it's just a damn cigar, dude.
Exactly.
Blows my mind.
You want to talk about first world problems?
Oh my God, Drew Estate sold! Oh!
First world problem, exactly, yeah.
Morons.
So,
Morons.
Catfish, I know you have a gig. I know your band's got a gig.
Yeah, I gotta head out here in a second. So what is it? 6:30. We gotta bounce.
I really appreciate your time. You know, I'd like to tell all the viewers, reach out to Cubanacan, get some of their lines, get some HR, smoke them. You'll be impressed. I know Catfish and I.
Yeah, I mean,
they're great, but this is the real deal.
I was very, very, very impressed with it. I mean, and I, like I said, I'm with some of the other people too. The price is high enough that it's hard for me to spend more money on it, and you know, because I'm a broke ass grad student. But you know, if our rating system on Cigar Federation wasn't based on how much I would buy, I would have probably rated it in the mid to high 90s, because it was that good. You know, based on how good it was, then, you know, I'm still, yes, I'm going to buy 10 of these things at least, because that's I mean, I buy 10 boxes of Padrones, 85ths, 45ths, you know, once a year I'll buy a 10-count box of them and spend the money, because I know when I want to sit down and smoke it, it's going to be a great experience, and I don't have to worry about it. You know, I don't have to worry about a bad burn or tossing it. I mean, I've got a graveyard of cigars over here, of samples from boutique companies that are $8-9, and I toss them out because they suck balls, you know. And I light one up, and it sucks, and I just throw it away, and I go grab something I want, you know. And it's nothing against that company, and I'll never talk shit about any companies, but that's an $8 to $9 boutique, and it sucks balls in comparison. And I'm picky, so, you know.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, that's the important thing. We've got bigger. You know, I've been, like I said, I've been in social media. I've appreciated social media. I understand it for a long. I've been there for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys play a, you know, I believe that social media, I'm one of these guys that believes that social media, bloggers, reviewers, writers, those people that invest their time, look, you guys don't have to do this, but those of you that invest your time into helping the industry be a smarter industry are doing a service, and you're, yeah, absolutely, and you're educating consumers, and you're playing a part. I'm sorry, Jennifer Lawrence just came up on my Twitter feed. Hey, but
that's more important. That's more important, man.
It's my girl. But the social media side of things is very important to us, and it's one of those deals where I appreciate the objectivity. I really, really do. So you guys are you guys do a great job, and I appreciate you having me on. I will say to everybody out there one more time, in case people have jumped on later on in the broadcast, I want to say thank you once again. Social media being what it is, you learn a lot. The cigar industry is very unique in that on the manufacturer side and the consumer side, there's a relationship there that I believe doesn't exist in a lot of other industries.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the McIntyre family for the love and concern and appreciation for the fall that we've gone through, because not only did I switch career paths, but then the next month, you know, my wife is diagnosed with cancer, and so we've had an adventurous fall, and the love and appreciation and support that we've experienced from random people around the country does not go unappreciated or unforgotten. So thank you from our family to you guys, and thank you to those of you that have trusted in Cubanacan to this point, because you're not supporting some big structure. You're feeding families of people that are busting butts every day to get out there and do something they believe in. So thank you very much for all the support.
Right on, brother. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with us about it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Very.
Thank you.
Right on. Thank you. Well, that's episode Veinte, episode 20. What Embargo?
20!
With Nate McIntyre talking about Cubanacan and the HR. We'll be back sometime next year unless Catfish and I get arrested by the ATF or somebody.
Go out and drink yourselves pretty, because you need it. Trust me.
Yeah!
Man, we are somebody. So, well, thank you all for tuning in. Nate, thank you so much for your time. Catfish, have a good gig, man. Good night. Good night and God bless. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all.